Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Welcome back. It is exactly 8:37 a.m. and we are now going to be looking at the issue regarding the midterm elections in the USA. And to talk to us about that issue is Professor of International Relations at WITS, and that is Professor Gilbert Hadia Khala. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. And let me
Thank
start
you.
with saying that we are all aware that voters in the United States are casting their ballots in key midterm elections, which will determine the makeup of the next Congress and set the tone for the remainder of President Joe Biden's term in the White House. And of course, the Republicans, on the other hand, are hoping to claw back control from Democrats in polls that will also decide key local and state officials. A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me? You're very, very faint.
I can hear you.
Okay, the line does sound a bit problematic, but would you like to respond to my opening statement, please?
No, the elections, the midterm elections were heavily contested between the Democrats and the Republicans. I think before the midterms, the Democrats controlled the lower house of representatives by a very small margin, while the Democrats also controlled the Senate again by very small margin. So the contest here now is whether in fact the Democrats can hold on to the House. It does look like they are going to lose control of the House of Representatives, which proposes legislation. And they are also very close to losing the Senate because their victory, their margin there was just about 1 or 2 votes. But it looks like they are going to lose the control of both houses, which means therefore that it is going to be very difficult for the president to govern in the next 2 years because he needs a Congress that is supportive of his legislative agenda, of his priorities, and so on. But the unexpected news last night was that the Republicans are not doing as well as expected, even though they have done. I think they are going to get the numbers to control the House of Representatives. We don't know about the Senate yet. There are about 4 or 5 races that have still to be decided today or tomorrow. And then we'll get a picture of who controls the Senate. But it looks like they are very much on their way to winning the House of Representatives.
So, Professor Gilbert, does that then indicate, let's assume that the Republicans do win full control of the Senate? Does that mean that Wendy Pelosi loses her position as Speaker of the House? Will the Republicans then put in their own person, or does she still continue till the end of Joe Biden's term?
No, it looks like if the Republicans win control of the House of Representatives, where she's Speaker, she's going to lose her position as Speaker, and somebody else is going to take over who is a Republican. So that's going to be a big shift in power because Nancy Pelosi has been very much the face of Congress for quite a long time now, and very supportive of the agenda that President Biden has been articulating since he came to power 2 years ago. So no, she's out completely. I mean, but she remains a member of the House because she represents a district in California.
Okay, so let's then further unpack this regarding, and as you indicate, that the Republicans are coming out very, very strongly. Chances are that they are going to win the midterms. Is that indicative of a Republican win after the end of Joe Biden's term? That this perhaps suggests that he's not going to be able to serve a second term because they seem to be coming forward very, very strongly.
There are two things. One is that in the history shows that the party that did not control the White House always does very well in the midterm elections. So, like, it's a protest vote against the White House, and this has happened over the years. But the second issue is that the vote is really about the economy, and rising fuel prices, rising food prices, and Biden has been very unpopular over the last 1.5 years. So the vote is a reflection of the Republicans running those issues that are very, very bread and butter questions. And these are the kinds of questions that make elections, lead to election victory. The other point which is important is that Biden is going into his late 70s, and there is already demand within the party itself that by the time the 2024 comes, he will be 81 years old. So he cannot run because he's actually getting old. But he's indicated that he wants to, in fact, to continue for the next 4 years. So what we'll have to watch is that after this election, depending on how the votes actually are tallied finally, and who controls the Senate, it is because the Senate is an important institution since they actually approve the legislation from the House. So if the Democrats lose the Senate, then it means that Biden will be very, very weakened by the loss of both houses. And therefore, most of his agenda will be up in the air. And therefore, there are people within the Democratic Party who are going already to make more open demands that he should not run again.
When we look at the issue around the Republicans and the Democrats, do you think that the Democrats got it all wrong? Because when you look at the Republicans, they seized on issues and they ran with issues like immigration and economic issues, whereas the Democrats were looking at issues around abortion rights and defending the democracy. Do you think they were kind of off the mark there? As you've said, it's really about the bread and butter issues for the people on the ground.
The big issue now is that the politics in America is very polarized. I think part of that is the phenomenon of Mr. Trump, who is a very divisive figure, and he still has a lot of influence within the Republican Party. And therefore, the issues around the economy, around prices, around fuel, those are issues that are going to take center stage more than the issues around immigration, for instance. Abortion rights has become a real issue, but it has one instinct. There are some states that have now instituted constitutional amendments to make abortion more permanent. So, in fact, it rallied a lot of the Democrats to the voting questions because in midterm elections, the voter turnout is not usually as big as it was yesterday. So it shows that there are some issues that were very galvanizing, like abortion, but not to the extent of trumping issues such as the economy, which is what actually made the big difference.
This thought has been at the back of my mind for a long time, and I want to throw it out there and kind of get a response. When Bernie Sanders pulled out of the presidential race, at the time I said to my husband, big mistake. The Democrats should have encouraged him to stay on. I actually didn't think that Biden was the right man. Your thoughts? Do you think that Bernie Sanders should have carried on and have become the president of the United States, and we would have seen a totally different scenario regarding the midterms?
Given the what you would call the rightward shift of most voters in the U.S., even some, because what matters mostly for elections is a moderate. Often they have a force because they don't want to be seen to be allied to either Republicans or Democrats. The problem with Bernie Sanders is that he's too much to the left, and he's not electable as a president. I think he has a very solid following, but that following cannot really put him up the margin. So that is his problem. He cannot even appeal to the moderate, who typically would make a decisive change in where the power is divided between Democrats and Republicans. The moderates tend to actually tip the balance. Bernie Sanders, therefore, is important. He has a constituency, but on the left, he's just as polarizing as Mr. Trump is on the right. So I can see why he's interested in his candidature, but he would be what you call a perennial loser because he doesn't have the real power to make it to the top. But he has a following that is significant, but not significant enough to make him the president.
And finally, seeing the midterm elections playing out as they are, and Trump keep on voicing his, his interest in running for the elections in 2024, uh, does that then suggest he is going to walk the elections, that he will come back into power, that he will be possibly the next president of the United States in 2024? That begs the question around the January 6th insurrections on the White House. Is he going to be answerable at all for that? And with that hanging over his head, do you still think he can walk these elections, walk and serve another term as President of the United States?
Trump is going. He's announced that he's going to announce on the 15th of November next week whether he's going to run or not. A lot of people expect that he's going to run, but the problem is faces now is that some of the candidates he was supporting in some of the Senate houses, Senate seats have actually lost elections, and therefore he expected a very large wave of support for Republicans. And I was reading this morning, he's been very quiet because I think he's a bit disappointed. The other issue is that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, who is his major challenger, now has
Mhm.
emerged very strongly in Florida. So even if Trump wants to run 2024, he's going to confront a very divided Republican Party with Ron DeSantis as the potential presidential candidate. And so he's actually looking weaker than he was a few years ago. I suspect that he may want to run, but he may not do as well. Within the party itself, he may not be able to make it. On the January 6th committee, I think two things are going to happen. First, when the Republicans take over the House, they are going to disband that committee. Although what is going to happen is that the Justice Department is still investigating Mr. Trump. Those investigations are still going to go on, even whether the Republicans disband that committee in Congress. The investigations are going to go. Whether in fact Mr. Trump would be dissuaded from running because of the potential charges that are going to come probably next year, really nobody knows at this point.
indeed for your insights into the United States midterm elections. Undoubtedly, we will talk with you again to give us an overview of the US elections and politics in general. Lovely talking with you this morning.
Thank you very much.
It is exactly 8:52 a.m. News and views right here on Salam Media. Stand by. Next on the show will be Corney Mulder. We are going to be talking about multi-party coalitions and, of course, the re-election of Mayor Tanya Campbell in Ekurhuleni.